last chord nearly nothing. The epilogue a little slower. Yes, bring out the middle voices a little early. And wait a little bit on this accent. Yes, what about the balance here? I think your bass was a little bit too loud. I would suggest when you play this, wait a little. I would like both voices. You should never lose the distinction of the main voices here, even in the end. All right, go on.
Next one?
Next one. Impressively wild. We have one piece in this collection that where Schumann invites us to play with Leidenschaft, with passion. But it's not this one, actually. It is in the Nacht. And I think we should keep our passion, or the most of it, for that later occasion. I realized that the title Fantasiestücke was taken from the German romantic poet Hoffmann, as were the titles of Kreisleriana and of Nachtstücke. And Hoffmann often had very strange, bizarre visions, but he also was able to express himself in a classicist language. And so I think there should be a fusion of both. I would organize this a little more and maybe hold back your enormous vitality just slightly. Also for a large hall, for a rather resonant hall, what you do here is over-pedaled. One would not hear distinctly enough certain details. Also, the rhythm you played at the beginning is very personal, but a little bit strange. Can you play the beginning again? Can you, do you know? Yes, you play pa-ta-ta-da-da, ta-ta-ta-ti-da, ta-ta-ta-da-da, ta-ta-ta-ti, for no apparent reason. There's something that leads to the sforzando, and before the sforzando maybe there's a slight acceleration. Also in the upbeat, pam pam pam, in the first upbeat there may be a slight holding back, but on the whole we have to play this figure in a way that we can afford to listen to it several times without getting slightly irritated. Yes, can you change the color? Can you think of two groups? Give much less of the left hand. Ignore the forte markings in the left hand. Yes. Some other consideration. What happens later in the piece? We have later on the same thing in fortissimo. We have an enormous climax that is even more. So let's give less at the beginning. Let's concentrate more on the middle voice. Even the octave here I would not play too loudly, so that later on we have different colors to offer. Yes, but the main thing still is, that to keep in our mind is that last sforzando, pam 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 pam. Now I want you to play this without this sort of approach. Now lightly. Yes, I think this is too loud. The warm color comes in here with the middle voice, but this is rather shadowy. Yes, I would give a little bit of an accelerando. And then spread the second phrase. And when it comes the second time, where Schumann puts the retard, we will spread it even more. Yes, after we have played these accents in the middle voice in the left hand, let's switch and give again more to the melody. Not too loud. first time the left hand comes in. Yes, sorry. There is a sforzando out of the beat here, and I need it. Ta 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 tam pa pa pi ta 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 tam pam pam kim pam pam pa. You see? Would be nice. Less excited. No, you know why you shouldn't do this accelerando? One of the reasons is that we and we have in the left hand an imitation. So if you would have a string quartet or an orchestra and the cellist would have to play this line and the first violinist would accelerate, the cellist would try to kill him. The composer has always to be in some ways a constructor, an architect. He does things that convince us even if we don't know what happens, because one thing develops, leads into another thing. There are certain motives that suddenly get more important, and now this first motive isolates itself more and more, and we have to pay more attention to it later on. So when we get here, let's for a moment look what has Schumann written down himself. There is a sforzando on the first beat, and there is a scherzando on the second beat. Now what does scherzando mean? Scherzando means that we can take certain whimsical liberties, at least for a moment. That's what you did with the whole piece. But I would concentrate in these metas. For instance, also scherzando is usually light. It's not something heavy. The beginning is heavier, and suddenly in the scherzando there's a light. Yes, can you combine these? Don't stop. No, play, think, ram, yes, now instead of playing sequences, 3 sequences that are very similar to each other, try to build something up. Each sequence means something else. It builds up to a certain climax, and then suddenly there is a harmonic change that dissolves into the first theme of the middle section. Can you try this? Yes, the whole thing is too agitated, too nervous for comfort. All right, we know the rest. Warum? Why? The name of the third piece. I wonder what he wanted to ask Miss Laidlaw. good. If you look at Schumann's markings, there are quite a number of dynamic markings that you did not play. You opted for a very simple approach that keeps everything in one sphere. Let's try to incorporate them. I think the initial tempo is a little bit too slow. Second half a little agitated. The real question is here. Think less in small rhythmical units than in whole bars. Let's look at the next piece. Grillen. Right. What does Schumann ask for? He says mit Humor. And that in this case means with a sense of fun. This is laughter. The left hand very much softer, otherwise the sound oh. And the beginning is mezzo forte. It's too loud. Yes, can we do more with the dice? Ti da dam pa da dim pa da dam. get a legato. Yes, keep up the laughter as much as you can. And don't fall too early into the highest chord. No, wait a bit. Now, this is one of the pieces in the set, or the piece that has the strictest rhythm. We can nearly be sure if you have a set of pieces, then an intelligent composer will explore several possibilities also of performance, and there will be one piece which is very well organized. In the Schumann Fantasy, there are two very free movements and one very strict movement in between. Unfortunately, this movement is usually played all over the place. But the rhythm of this mäßig durchaus energisch should be kept as much as possible. The same applies here. Even when you go to the next sections, keep everything together. Right. In der Nacht, mit Leidenschaft, with passion. Material here, bravo. That is stunning playing. Just a little bit of advice. In a large hall, again, the pedaling you sometimes take is a little bit too much. With this piece, we have to find the balance of the right sort of hot breath and of clarity. I would filter the sound. And in the pianissimo here, we don't need pedal here. Yes, and when we arrive here, wait a moment. Oasis, sudden. Yes, but the switch from one to the other should be so beautiful, and it should happen within one or two notes. Yes, now I personally, you may disagree with me, but I don't like the I think it's much more impressive and moving if these notes are played. Yes. Now, as you have so much facility, you could even do with the middle voices a little bit. Yes, the second time even more dolce than the first. Yes, there are little details. The first time we start with the B flat. The second time we start. It's just good to remember that maybe this new note needs a little bit more emphasis. Yes. Yes. For me here, the difference of color, I know. Can you play a legato where really your finger hurts? That is so intense on the key. On the other hand, the left hand can be much lighter here. There's no need to dwell on it. But I am still not satisfied with it. Also, there's a dynamic indication for this bar that there is a strong beginning and the bar is getting weaker. Now, what I would like you to do is to go away in the first time and stay on the keys the second time. Yes, la ta 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 ti, ta 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 ti, no, not ti ta ta ti, da ta 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 ta. Now it's more. Now pianissimo. Yes, excellent. No trouble. Just the end. Yes, there's only one thing here. We have, for the first time, the F major chord, and I think it has to be introduced differently. And then you go on. Wait before the entrance of the F major, and stop the impact, you see. Thank you very much. Bravo.
Thank you very, very much.
Applause for Natasha Tadson's playing of the Schumann Fantasiestücke.